Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. So if you've ever felt like your life is just moving at a million miles an hour, and you're basically just a passenger along for the ride, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're diving deep into a classic framework, Sean Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, and we're going to uncover exactly how to take back control of all that chaos.
Let's just start off with a really honest question. Are you actually in control of your life? I mean, really think about it. Do you ever feel completely overwhelmed by the pressure to succeed in school, or maybe by your grades, sudden mood swings, or just this overall feeling that you have no say over where your future is heading? If you're not in your head right now, trust me, you are not alone. These are very real problems. And you can't just hit pause on real life.
But to actually deal with real life, we need the right tools. I want to read you a quick little riddle straight from our source material today. It goes like this. Who am I? I am your constant companion. I am your greatest helper or heaviest burden. I will push you onward or drag you down to failure. I am completely at your command. Any guesses? The answer is, I have it. You can either train them to place the world at your feet, or you can let them run wild and absolutely destroy you. Section 1. The Teen Struggle. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand our habits, we first got to talk about how we view the world. The book calls this a paradigm. Think of a paradigm as the driving force of your life center, or literally the glasses through which you see the world around you. Now, a lot of us get obsessed with things like our friends, our stuff, maybe a boyfriend or girlfriend, or even our enemies. And whatever becomes the most important thing to you, well, that becomes your paradigm. But here's the catch. Centering your life on these incomplete things will eventually mess you up because they're constantly shifting. Think about it. If you're basing your entire self-worth on an incomplete paradigm, like, say, popularity or having the best stuff, what happens when the trends change? Right, you crash. Contrast that with principle-centered paradigms. Principles are things like honesty, hard work, service, and respect. They are rock solid. They don't talk behind your back, they don't suddenly move away, and they certainly don't suffer career-ending injuries. Building your life on principles gives you this incredibly unshakable foundation.
Section 2. The Blueprint for Effectiveness.
And this brilliantly illustrates our path forward. Notice where everything starts, right at the roots. Habits 1, 2, and 3, they happen completely underground. This is what we call the private victory. Because let's face it, you have to master yourself before you can ever genuinely hope to work well with others up there in the trunk and the branches, which represents the public victory.
Which brings us to Section 3, the private victory.
There's that famous saying, we have met the enemy and he is us. And man, is that true here. Beating your own fears, stepping up to the plate, and actually holding yourself accountable, that is hands down the hardest battle you are ever going to face. It's so much easier to just blame a teacher for a bad grade than it is to overcome your own procrastination, right? But those private victories absolutely have to come before the public ones.
So, a really great way to measure this kind of self-mastery is through what the source calls your personal bank account, or your PBA. Just like a real bank at the corner, you make deposits and you make withdrawals based on what you think, what you say, and what you do. When you make a promise to yourself and you actually keep it, boom, that's a deposit. You feel totally in control. But when you break a commitment to yourself, you're making a withdrawal, and your self-confidence takes a hit.
And that leads us right into habit 1, be proactive. Highly effective teens, they take absolute responsibility for their lives. They are the driving force. Now, look at the defective version, reacting. Defective teens basically blame all their problems on their parents, their teachers, or their neighborhood. They react kind of like animals, If they get yelled at, they just immediately yell back. Taking proactive responsibility is literally the ultimate deposit you can make into your personal bank account. All right, next up we have habits 2 and 3. Habit 2 is begin with the end in mind. Basically, this just means defining your mission and your actual goals in life. Because hey, if you don't step up to control your destiny, someone else definitely will. Then we have habit 3, put first things first. Once you have your goals, you need the sheer discipline to prioritize them. If you know exactly what long-term goals you are saying yes to, it gives you the willpower to say no to all those endless distractions, like skipping class or blowing off your real responsibilities.
Section 4. The Public Victory.
Now, what's really interesting about this next phase is perfectly summed up by Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said, "Who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying." Your success in any relationship relies almost entirely on who you have become internally. If you're constantly struggling to get along with others, well, you usually don't have to look any further than yourself for the answer. You really got to be independent before you can be interdependent.
But once you're actually secure in yourself, then you can start practicing habit 4. Think win-win. It's like life is an all-you-can-eat buffet. Win-win is simply the belief that everyone can win. It's not about who gets the absolute biggest piece of the pie, because guess what? There is more than enough food out there for everyone.
Let's contrast that kind of abundant win-win mindset with a purely competitive one. A lot of people just assume life is this cutthroat game, that for me to win, you absolutely have to lose. But that completely limits our potential. Now, win-win is nice, sure, but it's also tough. It means standing your ground and saying, hey, I won't step on you, but I'm not going to be your doormat either. Let's find a way for both of us to succeed.
And to actually pull off a win-win, you absolutely need habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Let's be real. Most of us just want to talk, right? We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, but we barely ever listen. Sincerely listening to other people, without just sitting there waiting for your turn to speak, builds massive trust. And that trust is the required fuel for the next major leap in effectiveness.
Section 5. The power of synergy.
Look at how this works in nature. We've got a rhino and some birds. They look totally different. They act completely differently. But by teaming up, they both get exactly what they need. The birds get a really tasty meal off the rhino's back, and the rhino gets nice and clean. Synergy is literally everywhere in nature. It's all about working together to achieve far more than you ever could just flying solo.
But hey, let's be crystal clear on what this actually means in practice. Synergy is celebrating differences, it's teamwork, it's being open-minded, and it's finding totally new and better ways. What synergy is not is just merely tolerating differences, working independently, assuming you're always right, or just settling for a lame compromise where everybody loses a little bit. No, it's about creating something entirely new together.
Section 6. Renewal and Results.
So, the crucial point here brings us to habit 7, sharpen the saw. Think about it. If you're constantly chopping down trees and you literally never stop to sharpen your saw, you're going to burn out fast. This is your me time. Taking time to renew yourself on a regular basis physically, mentally, emotionally is exactly what feeds all of the other 6 habits. It ensures you actually have the tank full of energy to stay proactive, to keep your goals in mind, and to really listen to others.
Now, you might be wondering, does this framework actually work in the real world? Well, the data says yes, big time. Let's look at a study of high school students who went through 7 Habits training. Back in week 2, their rating for I feel in control of my life sat at a 3.57 out of 5. Fast forward to week 18 after genuinely applying these principles, and it jumped up to a 4.53. That is a massive, highly measurable increase in feeling capable, organized, and proactive. The proof really is in the practice.
We've covered a ton of ground today, right? From the deep roots of the private victory all the way up to the high branches of synergy. But learning is totally useless without action. So I'm going to leave you with this. Which paradigm is currently ruling your life right now? Are you being driven by shifting sands, or are you anchored by rock-solid principles? And most importantly, are you ready to take that very first step toward your own private victory and start with the man in the mirror? Really think about it. Thank you so much for watching this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.